take a call in response to a number of the questions. It's interesting when I listen to the various speakers we've heard so far from the Labour Party. I do sometimes think they live in a parallel universe because I certainly the sense that I'm getting from the science sector, and I don't just mean said directly to me, but also indirectly through the Chief Science Advisor to the Prime Minister, Peter Gluckman, and many others, that there actually is a great deal of optimism in the science sector at the moment, and that they see the changes that the government has made, which is not obviously just legislative, but broader also in the CRI task force, the increases in funding to the Marsden Fund and the HRC has been significant. These changes, whilst Mr Shearer tended to diminish them, as indeed did Moana Maki, as being a sort of minor consequence, in fact, a part and parcel of a broader setting that we're changing here. And in a sense, you could say this legislation is effectively enabling. And so you don't see the words in here, a strategic setting, but that's what effectively is then able to be undertaken. And that was missed really in the previous division of the ministry and the foundation. I note Ms Manamoaki is inclined to keep repeating the untruth, because she knows it to be untrue, that she keeps saying that I did not want the ministry. She knows that is untrue, because she knows what I actually said is I wasn't expecting it. But I am very pleased to have got it. And the reason I was pleased to have got it, because I'd spent a lot of time in opposition at a working group, in North Shore, including people like Professor Rain and a number of other leading science people as well. And we were thinking about the role of innovation in New Zealand. We wrote a series of papers on it as part of the work that you actually do in opposition, and so when Dr. Hudson, he knew that I was interested. So because I'd been writing papers on innovation for the party. So can I say this in answer to some specific questions, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Hipkins raised the issue of boards. There will be two boards. One will be a science board, one will be an innovation board. The name, and I think it's recognised correctly by Mr. Shearer why the name was chosen. It's intended to show an end-to-end process connecting fundamental science right through to commercialisation. So as a consequence, you need two boards. A science board, which will fund really more what you might call the blue skies research. That board will mostly consist of New Zealand's leading scientists, as you would reasonably expect. The other board we'll have is the Innovation Board. That's going to be mostly towards the business end of funding, the Tech NZ funding, the $50 million there, the vouchers, $20 million over 4 years, hugely oversubscribed, good lesson in there I think for the future, and the recently announced technology development grants, which has got $190 million over 4 years, also hugely received, also I might add oversubscribed, and also I might add superior to Labour's tax credit scheme, which was aimed at lawyers, went through the IRD system, disconnected fundamentally from the most innovative businesses. Now I know that there's a number of people in the House who've had reference to the TIN 100 publication, Technology Information Network publication. That sets out New Zealand's leading technological companies. They are the ones, by and large, who have benefited from the technology development grant. A rigorous process was undertaken to work out those firms that had the highest levels of R&D capability, and they are getting the grant. So it was an independent selection process, can I say. So, Mr. Speaker, that two boards there, Can I also conclude on this point, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Chairman, sorry. The point raised by Mr. Robinson about the balance between stable funding and contestable funding, an important point actually. And the OECD task force made a report in 2007 on this very issue. The previous government seemingly just ignored it, but we established the CRI task force, which was intended to take on board the lessons from that. And as members may well know, the OECD has just come to New Zealand in the last week to essentially review what's occurred since then. And they particularly noted two things: a CRI task force which will deliver more stable funding. You don't want all the funding to be stable, and I think Mr. Robinson is correct in that. It's an issue of balance here, and it's why we do have the Science Board to actually ensure that that balance is in there. But there's no doubt about it, the CRIs are enthusiastic about the results of the task force and are looking forward to implementing it. Three elements there. The statements of core purpose, hugely important. The most effective CRIs are the ones that have the best understanding of their own mission. Secondly, the stable funding, or the core funding as it's called. And then thirdly, a more appropriate form of accountability. Financial measures still important, but not the only measures. Mr. Speaker, can I close on this? It is my clear understanding from within the sector that they have been appreciative of the measures that have been undertaken. They can see the strategic purpose of them. The Ministry, the CRI task force, the simplification hugely of the appropriations. Frankly, I inherited a system where the appropriation system itself was chaotic, and it caused a huge amount of confusion within the sector. And one of the ways you actually improve the sector is actually reduce compliance costs within the sector. Mr. Shearer knows what I'm talking about because he's heard it from many, many people. These are the sorts of things that have been done to date. They do form something of a foundation for further improvements. Actually, the sector really has got an opportunity to build from it. So, Mr. Chair, can I close on saying this? This part of the bill, part one, is all about getting a more effective system that will actually be able to achieve the purposes set out in Clause 7. And can I assure you, Mr. Hipkins, the two boards have been established precisely to ensure that the Minister does not fund individual scientists. Thank you.
Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much.